And a good morning to everyone as we welcome you once again to Quad Radio Live on a Tuesday morning, and this is November 13th, 2012, actually. And, of course, we are into our third and, I would assume, final edition of the do's and don'ts of sponsorship with Seth Farfghe. He'll be joining us here in just a couple of seconds. First, I want to say thanks to a few folks that helped make it all possible as far as the Quad Radio efforts this year. Again, thanks to our friends at Impact Solutions, ATV.com on the World Wide Web. They're your factory-authorized service center for Elka suspension in Parkersburg, West Virginia. Those guys helped out. They got Quad Radio a new computer over the summer, which enabled the enhancing of the broadcasting, which sometimes seems a little bit rough and patchy, but we're working through some issues in our first year, but we're getting that all taken care of. And also, those folks, you can find them not only at ImpactSolutionsATV.com on the World Wide Web, but you can find them at Impact Solutions on Facebook also. You can click a link from the quadradio.com website to find out more about those folks. So just want to say thanks to Jay and everybody, Steve and everybody over at Impact Solutions, ATV.com. Factory authorized service center here in the U.S. for Elka suspension. Also, I want to salute my good friend Ian Harris over at SSI Decals. He has provided Quad Radio with the stickers and so forth that we've been passing out, and he is actually working right now on a Quad Radio banner, as well as some more stickers that we're going to be passing out. We'll have some of those over at the ATV Motocross Banquet coming up here in less than 2 weeks now at Morgantown's majestic and beautiful waterfront place hotel there in downtown Morgantown, West Virginia for the first time there with the ATV Awards Banquet, and it should be a good one, and hopefully you folks are all planning on being in attendance there. It's the Saturday after Thanksgiving. I think the date on that is the 24th. They have extended, if you go on to atvmotocross.com, they have extended the room rate special deals there at the waterfront place, but it's not going to be much longer. Actually, it may have expired already, but you might have a day or two, so check out atvmotocross.com for more details on that. And again, thanks to SSI Decals for the stickers. We're going to try to have some of those over there at the banquet for that, as well as the upcoming GNCC banquet and any place and anything else that we've got going on. Thanks to SSI, they help out the ATV racing community so much. Great and awesome graphics from the ATVs to stickers to you name it. I mean, they've got a graphics thing for nearly everything on the planet, I think, even your motorhomes and RVs and things. They've even got, if I'm not mistaken, you can go on and build your own graphics package right there on SSI Decals. Snowmobiles, you name it. Get on there. SSI Decals is all I got to say. Also, I want to remind folks, coming up this weekend, the 28th Annual Hare Scramble Championship of the World. It's a team hare scramble championship put on by Action Sports Promotions. It's a great little thing. If you haven't checked it out ever before, you should. If you're going to be in the southeastern Ohio area near Athens, it is a mecca of off-road racing, and this is kind of a history type thing there, but it's a nostalgia type thing as well, as it gets a lot of folks together and makes for a good time. So be sure and check that out. So again, we welcome you to Quad Radio, and we say good morning to one Seth Farfghe. Seth's like, come on, dude, are you ever going to start talking to me? Because you got lots of things I know to be talking about here this morning. But good morning, Seth Farfghe. How's things going, bud?
Good morning. Things are going well. Just getting the day started.
That's great. So again, you are in South Carolina, if memory serves me correct, right?
I am, yes, indeed.
So what's the weather like there? I know we got some rain here in southeastern Ohio, and it's actually been a good thing because things were kind of dry, and forest fires were becoming, and brush fires were becoming a little bit of an issue, and that kind of subsided whenever the rain came through there yesterday. We also got a cold front with it, but it's supposed to gradually warm up, and we got sunny skies now, and it's just a beautiful day to be out and about.
Nice. Yeah, it's been a little overcast the last couple of days. We had some rain today. It's not raining, but it's still overcast. But there's blue sky peeking through. I'm not terrified of cold, but I like my sun. After growing up in Portland, Oregon, and dealing with the rain 364 days a year, I I like my sunshine, and it doesn't matter really how cold it is as long as the sun is shining.
Wow. Wow, that's pretty wild. Growing up in Portland, Oregon. Now, is it as rainy there as what they say? I mean, honestly.
Yeah, it's pretty much a constant drizzle. Like late August and September, October can be really nice, and you get the random days of sunshine. It's beautiful because it's clear sky and everything is green, but you don't get all that green without the rain the rest of the year, and so. I've been there riding at the dunes and so forth, in the middle of July and gotten an inch of rain in a day. So,
wow.
It's crazy. Dune Fest is always held in the first week of August, and it's a crapshoot as to whether you're going to have rain or sun or whatever. I've been there, and it's been a wet week, and I've been there, and it's just been sunny and super nice. So, when it's sunny, it's nice, but most of the time it's pretty wet and rainy.
So before we get into this week's discussion, and folks don't know who you are, I guess we could find out a little bit about that. But right now, what exactly is Dune Fest?
Dune Fest is basically the largest off-road ATV off-road event in the Northwest. I think it's one of the bigger, if not the biggest, sanctioned sand ATV off-road riding events in the country. Obviously, it doesn't rank up there with like Thanksgiving weekend at Glamis, but that's technically not an organized sanctioned event. There's like 200,000 people that show up in the desert out there in California, but that's not really a sanctioned event. Dune Fest is basically a week-long event in Winchester Bay, Oregon. Basically week-long, 8,000 people, and they have sand motocross and barrel racing and drag racing goes on all week long. And then there's family-friendly events like poker runs and treasure hunts. And one of the funny ones to watch is
why don't we have something like this out on the East Coast, man? Or when can I go to that on the West Coast? You say it happens in July?
It happens typically the first week of August. It's
that's why I can't go. I'm usually at Loretta Lynn's two-wheel event for that one.
Yep. I actually squeezed in last year. I went from Oregon Dune Fest to Loretta's for the season finale when I was working with DWT. So I was out on the East Coast or the West Coast for the Dune Fest, flew back to the finale. So it's always right around that time of year, unfortunately.
Wow. That hopefully maybe well, I don't want to wish anything that I can go because that means I would lose some work, so I don't want to do that. But at any rate, maybe some way, someday I can get involved in something like that. I think Quad Radio needs to be a part of that. That sounds like that would be pretty awesome. But anyway, so Dune Fest, that's huge out on the East Coast. If anybody, or West Coast, if anybody knows of anything like that takes place here on the East Coast, let me know because I know I'm into the quad world and this, that, and the other, but I am kind of tunnel visioned on a lot of things because, this is my world and this is what I'm working on, mainly with the ATV Motocross Nationals and GNCC. But I am open, and Quad Radio is open to expanding into other realms of the quad world. So don't be afraid to get a hold of us here at Quad Radio. So drop us an email, Rodney@quadradio.com, anytime you want to. And Seth, that's pretty cool, man. So you moved up through you got interested in ATV racing as a kid. I'm sure that might have helped out a little bit over there at Dune Fest.
Yeah, I pretty much lived my life through magazines and movies. When Wes Miller was producing the popular Huevos Grandes series and all that stuff, and followed the Bomb Squad and all the freestyle stuff that was going on. And then I went to college, and that was kind of a hiatus on my riding, basically my involvement period in the sport. But after college, I got out. That was when I started dabbling in freestyle, and I connected with some guys and things like that, and ultimately connected with the Bomb Squad, and I moved to California to go train and do freestyle, and I did that for a while and got to ride some shows, and in that period of time got connected with DWT and MotoWorks and got a job with them, and I continue to do media stuff. I write for various websites, mostly right now ATV.com is one. I've got several stories on right there. Actually, I did a piece that you and I had spoken about on the State of the Sport Quad segment, which is going to be published tomorrow, I think, on ATV.com. so I write for them and ATV Rider magazine occasionally. Just about anybody that'll looking for stories, and I can have an opportunity to write and test and do that kind of stuff. I try to do that. It's ways to stay involved in the industry when it's kind of the off season.
Wow, Seth, I guess we got a new story. Since that's going to publish this week, then we've got a new story for next week, I guess, whenever, maybe a Tuesday or something, if you got a little bit of time. We can talk a little bit about the state of the industry. That would be pretty cool.
Yeah, it was good. I talked to several of the manufacturers I traded emails with and had interviews with Steve Nessel and Van Holmes at Yamaha, a guy named Kevin at Honda, and I spoke with Mark Baldwin, just being an aftermarket company that's been involved in the industry for years through the good times and the bad times. So I got his perspective as well as some other companies, and got kind of an all-encompassing picture of the industry. So it was entertaining and educational for me, and then I put together my findings in an article that I think was beneficial, but then I'm biased, so we'll see what other people think.
Anything shocking that you can tease us with right now?
The thing that I have to hold on to is the fact that while it's discouraging to see, factory racing pull out of the nationals and stuff on some levels, it's not what it was back in 2008. The thing that I have to keep going back to is it's nowhere near what it was in the 90s. Mm-hmm. The 90s was all 250R based hybrid quads, no factory involvement, and very few sport models even. And today, as difficult as it is, in 2008 there were 7 production 450 class machines. Today there are only 4, but there's a host of sport ATVs still out there. Honda has the 250X, the 400EX. Yamaha has several sport machines. So back in the 90s, in terms of production, there was the Yamaha Banshee, the Warrior, the Blaster, and Honda had the 300EX until the 400EX came out. So as frustrating as it can be to look at the overall scope of things compared to what it was a few years ago, it's kind of discouraging, but compared to what it was in the 90s, we're still in a lot better shape as far as models out there, and certainly the 4-stroke revolution has been great. There are race capable, race ready models in production, which is awesome. So and talking with some of the guys from Yamaha, I got to go on their press intro for the 2013 Yamaha Raptor, and because cost is an issue for everyone, they actually decreased the cost of all 3 models of the Raptor that they released for 2013 over last year, and so they pointed that out. They're trying to meet the needs of the consumers. So it's real. And certainly put together another show and talk about that in the future.
Wow, that's some interesting stuff, and some pretty neat perspectives. And, my perspective on that is, I still see a lot of contingency and stuff out there from some of the manufacturers, and starting to see some step up from even Honda and things. So it's kind of looking bright to me. And if you look at the numbers from the Grand National Cross Country Series this year, they had the most numbers, the second most numbers in history of the series, the 40-year championship series itself. So that was pretty cool. So that's an enlightening thing as well. So a lot of positives to take from what's going on in the industry today, I think, Seth. And I'm looking forward to reading that article. It comes out tomorrow on atv.com. Is that what it is? Is it atv.com.com, or how's that go?
Yep, just atv.com. They're an affiliate with motorcycle.com and offroad.com. It seems they have all the basic. ATV.com is just the URL, and I'll post it on my Facebook pages as well.
Okay, and link it to and share it on Quad Radio, and share it on my personal Facebook page too, Rodney H. Tomlin. That way, I can get it out to a couple thousand people anyway, and we can help expand the audience a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. We'll do that. I appreciate it.
Not a problem. Now, let's get on to what's going on here today, the whole gist of why we are here with Seth Farfghe and the do's and don'ts of this sponsorship season. I mean, here we are, we're in the silly season, a lot of crazy things going on, and people are looking and searching for sponsors, and people are getting desperate. People are getting, they get frustrated, they get anxious, they don't know exactly what direction to turn or anything like that. And Seth, over the last few weeks, we've covered quite a bit of stuff. If we go back and look at the grand scheme of things here, I mean, we've talked about everything from the beginning, which I think, first and foremost, do try to make the sponsor's job easier. That is, of course, finding out whether they want it hard copy, via mail, electronically via email. Maybe they want a video resume. Do they do it through a sponsor house type affiliate program or something like that, or hook it or something? You want to find out first how they accept that particular resume.
Yeah, really, I mean, that's one of the biggest ways. You make their job easier. You want to make a sponsor want to work with you. So anything you can do to simplify their job and their task is of reviewing it and responding. And nobody likes the needy boyfriend or girlfriend or a drama queen. So sponsors are the same way. If they've got to hold your hand and they've got, every time they work something out, there's a problem, they're likely going to not want to deal with that. So the people that keep it short and sweet, keep the sponsor updated, and do what they ask and follow through, go a long ways. Following through is something that I had some interactions with people, and doing what you say. It seems so often people talk a big talk and say they're going to do something and don't follow through, even to the point of I've had guys, say they're going to race multiple series in multiple classes, and at the end of the season, they raced one class and one series, and they come back asking for sponsorship and a high level of support the next year, and kind of scratching my head going, why would we partner again when you didn't do what you said? I mean, there's things happen, injuries, accidents, financial situations, so it's understandable. But when you just choose not to do things and there's no communication as far as, well, yeah, we decided not to do that, or just didn't want to, or whatever, kind of leaves the sponsor wondering, well, you said you were going to do a lot of things that you didn't do, so why would we want to partner with you again? So that's an important aspect as well.
Right. And whenever you're putting your resumes together, the whole idea is to try to look and be as professional as possible. So, number one, you want to proofread, use correct punctuation and grammar. You want to include pictures, a few action shots, as well as a headshot. You want people to be able to kind of identify who you are, in a face-to-face situation. And in these pictures, you need to be looking professional in those. You want to take advantage. I mean, any professional will do this. You point out Chad Weenan quite often being the master of this, but take advantage of the internet, maximize social media, and use that to your advantage. And most importantly, and as important as all this stuff tied together, is keeping that professional appearance at the racetrack, with keeping your machine, your clothing, your pits, and everything about what you've got going on there as spotless and as professional looking as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, professionalism is what it's about, and we talked about first impressions, and you're basically selling yourself. And so how you represent yourself speaks how you're going to represent that company. So everything from your pit to your machine to yourself, your image. That was an interesting thing I saw at the AMA banquet in 2011. I was fortunate enough to go to that out in California right at the close of the outdoor motocross season. And I got to give a big shout out to our ATV peeps. Of all the guys that were out there, Chad, Thomas, Josh Epperman, Joel Hetrick, John Natale, the ATV guys, by and large, were much more professionally dressed and I guess represented themselves a little bit more professionally than most of the dirt bike guys. There was a lot of, it's a banquet. You don't have to be formal, but a lot of people are. And the dirt bike crowd was a lot of flat bills, hats, T-shirts, jeans, and that's understandable. That's part of the motocross punk rock culture. But dressing professionally, representing yourself, especially at a banquet like that when all the biggest of the bigs, the sponsors, the manufacturers, everyone is there. It goes a long way. So big shout out to our ATV peeps for representing themselves that way. Unfortunately, a lot of the people when they were doing the ATV award presentation, a lot of people at the banquet seemed to not be that interested in the ATV crowd, which I was bummed for. But the ATV guys sure did a great job of promoting themselves and representing themselves professionally, while some of the guys on the dirt bike side just seemed like they were there, and it was too much to ask them to comb their hair or put on a collared shirt to come to a big time banquet. So. And who knows, there's no doubt motocross, dirt bike people listening to this, and I don't want to offend anybody or anything. And, if you're talented enough to get a salary and that kind of thing, it doesn't hurt to dress up. Ryan Dungey was there. I actually went to the banquet with Jeremiah Jones, and he and I stopped and talked to Ryan Dungey real briefly. And Dungey wasn't wearing a tux or a tie, but he did have a collared shirt, and he was dressed professionally. And that's the thing, if there's a big difference between, they may all be professionals, but the top professionals know how to conduct themselves, and sometimes that has to do with, making yourself look professional.
Right. Now, let me ask you this. Was Dungey dressed in attire you could find at Target by any chance?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
I mean,
he didn't have any of his Target logos on him, but certainly so.
That's pretty interesting. Honestly, I love the place, and I think it's great that they're supporting the sport, supporting him, and in that respect, actually supporting the sport. So I think that's great to have them on. So heck yeah, man, give Target a plug right here on Quad Radio today. And
that's right.
Well, with that, obviously, that's an important thing, and you do scratch your head and you wonder sometimes, but you're never too big to be professional looking. I mean, look at Donald Trump, man. I mean, that guy is billions of dollars, and you can't tell me that, it isn't a lot more comfortable to sit around in a pair of sweats or, a pair of shorts or anything. But that man's always got his wig combed properly, and he's always got a suit on. I mean, the guy, I think he probably bathes in a suit, I mean, the guy looks professional all the time, and that's what you want to do.
There's no doubt about that. He's professional from where to go. And people, our generation right now, from a work ethic and a professionalism standpoint, we're very much in my generation specifically is the don't judge me, creative thinking, artful, be who I want to be kind of thing. And that's absolutely fine. I'm supportive of being who you are and embracing that. But if you choose to be the kind of person and your personality is pierce every square inch of your body, take hair, and tattoos on your face, and then you don't get a job as a corporate CEO, that's just kind of the way business is. Certain companies, if you're going to be the face of an organization, they are strict about that. So you can certainly have the freedom to dress and live your life the way you want to, but like it or not, people are gonna have that disposition or that.
Don't judge me, man. Don't judge me. I got tattoos. Don't judge me.
Hey, I got no problems with tattoos.
Yeah,
Now,
I'm just kidding.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just kidding. I don't have tattoos, but I'm the same way. My wife, she's got a few now. I wonder sometimes, like, woman, stop, please. But that's what she's into. she's part of that generation as well. I guess I skipped over it just a little bit. But what's really weird? My father-in-law is into it too, and he's like 12 years older than I am. But anyway, I don't know how I skipped that. But yeah, I mean, think about what you're going to do. When you're going to do it tastefully is the number one thing I think that people need to be aware of. Here's an interesting story on the whole tattoo thing. And again, I don't have a problem with it, but placement and like you said, you probably wouldn't want one on your neck, on your face, or something like that. But I was at a Wendy's drive-thru in Columbus, Ohio. It was in one of the ritzier type neighborhoods, but there was a young lady that worked there, and she was rather tatted up. And I don't have a problem with it, and we were talking, and she kind of brought it up that someone had actually complained, called in after going through the drive-thru, had complained about being served by someone with the tattoos. And they weren't, I mean, they were like her child's name or something tattooed on her neck or something. You know, it was probably in an area that was a little sensitive to some people as far as, you know, that are being judgmental and so forth. But just like that particular thing right there, you know, the general public, though, yeah, you know, you may think about it one way, somebody else thinks about it another, and you're not going to be 21, 22, 25, or 30 forever. You're going to grow up someday.
Yeah, that's absolutely the truth, and I just have to put myself as a business. If I was a business owner and I'm a business owner's shoes, I you know, by law you can't judge people on orientation, religion, creed, color, etc. But if you're hiring someone, and I'm hiring someone to be the front line of my business, even if it's Wendy's or an off-road company or whatever, I have to consider the fact that, like it or not, they're the face of my company, and so are my customers going to be turned off by working with that person? And I have wonderful friends that are tattooed from head to toe. Mm-hmm. I have no problem with it.
Right.
But you know, if I'm going to have them conduct a business deal, it may not even have to do with their skill or their aptitude, but if it's going to diminish the credibility of my customers working with them, that's something a business owner has to consider. So, no problem there, no personal beef. It's just the way it is. Some mm-hmm. people are going to judge that, and we certainly don't have to turn it into a political correctness debate, because they'll probably get emails and phone calls and whatever else. And so,
but the idea here is just be respectful and tasteful about what you're doing. I mean, yeah, we understand. People understand, and if that's what you want to do, fine, do it, man. I mean, be yourself is what I say. I'm not going to judge you, but there are people out there that will, and that's just the way that it is. That's the cold, hard facts. And as we continue here, Seth, with this, one of the things that you want to do, you want to keep in touch with sponsors. And this even includes, you know, times that maybe someone doesn't sponsor you or something, but maybe someone that you want to court and you want to prove to them that you've got what it takes to be a part of their program. Maybe, you know, keep in touch with them through your press releases and things like that, you know, because once you get, you know, to a certain level, if you're going to be doing this, you need to be putting press releases out either on your own social media pages, on other folks' social media pages, on your sponsors' media pages, and things like that. And that's one way, you know, send it to them and let them see what you're doing for your other sponsors and stuff like that, even if they turn you down or whatever the case may be. You know, you want to keep in touch with these people. That's kind of that part of the thing that we talk about thinking outside the box to help promote yourself there. Whenever you do this, you want to be able to include information where people can get a hold of you. You want to make sure you've got an email address on there that is your primary mode of getting, you know, people getting in touch with you. Put telephone numbers on there, and even maybe as far as that goes, you know, in some of those personalized emails to some of those sponsors, you might want to even include a physical mailing address in case maybe they want to surprise you sometime or something like that. Always say thank you. You know, you're always taught whenever you're growing up to say please and thank you. Continue that respect as you grow up through not only through life and individuals in life, but also you want to do that to sponsors, potential sponsors, people that may even be telling you no all the time. And most importantly, above everything, do not be dishonest. Do not lie. Tell the truth at all times.
Yeah, you pretty much summed it all up there. That you should have written the 25 do's and don'ts article, because that pretty much sums it all up.
Well, I've got some notes to work off of here. Somebody wrote it down once before.
Nice.
But
yeah.
Those are the things. I mean, let's talk about the self-promotion. You know, this is one way to, I think, you know, local newspapers in your hometown. Yeah, they may or may not be beneficial to your sponsors in any way, shape, or form. But what it is, it's beneficial to you and you build a fan base, and maybe you can build a fan base locally, and you can start attracting people, and then it becomes beneficial to your sponsors, because whenever they go out to buy whatever, well, this dude's running these flex handlebars, I want a set of flex handlebars, or whatever the case may be, and so forth and so on. And you want to not only do that locally, but like I said, on your social media pages. I mean, there's all kinds of outlets. You want to send it to everybody and everything that you think that will post it. I mean, there's sites like atvriders.com. They'll post it. I'm sure ATV, I'm not real familiar with atv.com, but I'm sure they've got a section on there where they've got race reports on there. I know that GNCC Racing, ATV Motocross Racing, let's see, and there's several others. I mean, those are just the ones that I can think of off the top of my head that you can utilize out there. ATVscene.com is another one that people, I think, have been forgetting about a lot lately. ATVunderground.com, start dropping some lines to those folks, and maybe you might be able to get some hits over there. But, I mean, there's plenty of outlets out there for you to utilize, and that's what you need to be doing.
Yeah, one thing you said earlier was, the word you used was courting some sponsors, even if you're not currently working with them. But it's something I've learned as I'm a big fan of personal branding and networking and online marketing in areas outside of the industry. And so one of the things I've learned, if you want to gain the attention of what I call influencers, say a professional author or a blogger or a political figure, you can share their statuses on Facebook. You can share their content around or retweet their stuff. And that's the way that you're getting their attention. And so you may not know them. They certainly usually don't know you. But what they see is, oh, wow, this person's constantly sharing my material. They're retweeting my tweets. They're taking an active interest. I want to find more out about them. And if you're doing that to a company, say you may not have an affiliation with a company, but you're constantly sharing their material, their blog posts, their Facebook statuses, that kind of stuff. I absolutely noticed that on when I was running the Facebook pages for DWT, and even my own personal pages. I pay attention to the people that share my statuses, and that I post a picture online, and I pay attention to who's sharing it around and what kind of exposure that gets. It's amazing, and that's something to consider when you put something out there. The way that photos get shared, it's really amazing. I think of one instance from just a little while ago. It was interesting. Speaking about Dune Fest, when I was there in August, I have a good friend that runs UTVguide.net. It's a site all about UTVs, and he was there. And we were out cruising around in the dunes, and Caleb and Colton Moore, freestyle X Games, superstars, were out hanging out. We all stopped at this dune, and I was jumping it on my quad, and they were jumping it on their side-by-side, and John, the guy that runs UTVguide.net, posted a photo on his Facebook page of me doing a heel clicker off this dune. It was a real nice photo and so forth, and he shared it on UTVguide.net. It got about 30 other people sharing it. They thought it was a cool photo. One of those pages that shared it was the Sand Sports Super Show page, where it has about 10,000 followers.
Wow.
And when they shared it on their page, it got over 200 or 300 people that viewed it and clicked like. So it had my name posted and a link to my Facebook page. And because John posted that on his page, people shared it. The Sand Sports Super Show shared it on their page, and 300 plus people saw it and commented and said, "Wow, this is cool." So I don't know any of those people, but it was exposure for me. It was exposure for John, because one of those pages with a lot of followers shared it around, and that's kind of that's going viral. Now, that's 300 people isn't viral, but these YouTube videos that are out there that all of a sudden go viral and have millions and millions of views, that's a great asset, and that's the power of the internet. So when you share stuff, you can capture people's attention, because they'll see that you're proactive in sharing their material, and that in turn makes them go, okay, well, when sponsorship season comes around next year, I want to try to help that person, because it's obvious they're going to be representing us.
Yep. And, of course, as we move on, we want to talk about, maybe a little bit more about the resumes. Whenever you do the resumes, you don't use the same cover letter as your friend. or the same resume. You don't just go in and change your name and this, that, and the other, because you guys are probably going to be sending those out to the same people. You don't want to send out mass requests either, like to whom it may concern. You may want to try to find out who you are referring to and trying to work with immediately there, and try to personalize that a little bit, I think. And if you're in school, if you're a kid, or in college, you want to make sure that on that resume you include a report card. Let them know how well you are doing in your studies and how focused you are on and off the track.
Yeah, definitely. Any of those, and some of it's circumstantial. Obviously, I'm not in school, so a report card for me doesn't do me any good. But if you're in school, it's great to see that. A lot of people, and one of the gals that emailed me after hearing this Quad Radio interview mentioned that a lot of sponsors are character-based, and that they want to see good people. They're not necessarily sponsoring somebody or offering a discount because they're the best of the best, but they see somebody that's a hard worker, they're doing well in school, they're positive and professional at the track, and so they want to help that person out for that reason. When I was at DWT, I spoke probably a couple times a month with Jennifer Raff, and we would compare stories about people. Some of the sponsorship horror stories we had from people that were, demanding, or prima donnas, or some of the people that are just really nice and really deserving and friendly. And it was interesting to hear some of those stories. And yeah, some people want to help people out just because they're a good person. And a lot of times she even shared with me, she'd have somebody come back and say, I'm a faster racer than this kid, and you're helping him out more. And she said, well, that's my right as the company. I have the freedom to do that. And the fact that people make a big deal out of things like that and complain or come back at you kind of makes you go, well, yeah, that's part of the reason why they get a better discount than you do, because you're kind of showing your colors by raising a big fuss over it.
Right. Exactly. And that was some of my next points. Don't badmouth sponsors. Don't discuss level of sponsorship with others. That way you don't create a lot of animosity out there. Don't be foul. And do understand that sponsors have a right to say no. And also, I think one of the things, that goes along with this that you write about, other than don't bad-mouthing sponsors and being foul and, all that, is don't jump sponsorship, or don't jump ship in the middle of the season, or don't jump because of, you got, like you've reiterated, I think, a couple of different times in the past, if they have to cut the level of sponsorship for whatever reason, because like you said, these are tough times. And, what you guys did at DWT and Motorworks and stuff like that was actually cut the cost and then cut the percentage. And in reality, they were saving a lot more than they were before. And if people weren't doing the math, then they were sadly mistaken and probably ruined and maybe even burned a bridge or two there, because they got a little bit disappointed, or, a little bit mouthy about being disappointed.
Yeah, that definitely happened on a couple occasions, and some people I take the time to respond and educate. I like to educate people, so I try to do it tactfully. I will admit that there were a few times that their response garnered a less than professional response back from me. If someone threatens, like, well, maybe it's time we switch companies or whatever else, I do confess that sometimes my reply was not always the most positive, but by and large, I try to educate people and just explain the situation and say, well, yeah, maybe do the math on your new discount, because I'll certainly give you the bigger discount on the higher price, and you'll be paying us more money than the lower discount at the lower price. Mm-hmm. So it's important to do that, and also, know the quality of product.
Right.
If you're going to go through, you're going to get a good deal on a junky product and have to replace it every race, that's not necessarily saving you money in the long run.
Right. Exactly. So another thing that we want to kind of reiterate here, Seth, is you said something about being a prima donna there just a moment ago. One thing, don't be a prima donna, but you do want to make friends with as many people as you possibly can, including any media outlets that you can. You want to try to make yourself available for these folks for interviews. And I'll give you a classic example. I work a lot with a lot of quad riders, and I'm not going to mention any names, but I was, getting things started and up and rolling with quad radio earlier last year. And it was, I went to a rider and I was at a place, and, people were giving me a 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes here, whatever the case may be. And this guy, everybody else he had his team there. I'm not going to say which team it was, but it was a team, and he had mechanics, he had drivers, he had this, everything. And I say, hey man, you need, you got a couple minutes for an interview, and if now's not okay, that's fine, whatever. And he's just like, no, I don't want to give one. I don't feel like giving one right now, and I don't think I'm going to. I'm going to go ride now. And I just kind of like, not even a, hey, can we do this a little bit later on? I was kind of hoping to go ride right now. Not a flat out no, you know what I mean? And this guy is in a position where he needed to be saying yes to any and everyone that would interview him at the time. He needed and still needs the exposure. And I'm not going to lie to you. He came back to me not long after that and apologized to me. And obviously, because it had gotten around, there were some people that were standing there, and the mechanics and team managers and everything got the word of what happened, and they were immediate to be so apologetic on what had taken place. And I myself, like the guy, always felt real good friends with the guy. I always gave him the hype, and I'm not going to lie to you. It really curbed my enthusiasm in promoting for him. And, even after he came and personally apologized to me and said, hey, I'm ready to do that interview whenever you want to do. You know what? He hasn't been on since. I haven't asked him to be on. I don't need him right now. I didn't need him then. I was just trying, I thought I was trying to build something then. I was offended. I'm not going to lie. I was offended from a social media standpoint. So be accessible. If you can't be accessible, at least be reasonable about it. That's what I'm trying to say in that big, long story.
Absolutely, yeah. And that's, you have to look at the big picture. Our industry, unfortunately, isn't as it's a lot more liquid than the dirt bike side. The ATV industry has its ups and its downs. Branding yourself is all the more important. The only reason Jeremy McGrath and Travis Pastrana and Ricky Carmichael continue to have careers outside of when they stopped racing is the fact that they branded themselves, they're around the sport, and they're staying relevant. And it's important to take those opportunities when they come to you. You've got to remain in the spotlight. And especially when you're a racer building your career, you want to take any and every opportunity to get involved. It's funny, when I first started doing media stuff, I think I did one magazine article right in my senior year of college. And I don't know, I could say I was a freelance journalist because I had started writing. I got paid for it, which was awesome. It was actually for ATV Sport magazine. I did one story, and they asked me to do some interviews and some other blogs, other stuff. And so I contacted Dustin Wimmer. He had just won the national championship, I think, back in 2009 and maybe 2008. Either way, I contacted him and said, hey, could I get an interview about your gun? My thought was like, well, there's no reason for him to talk to me. I mean, whatever. He's just won a championship. He's got all the attention he needs. But really, the smart guys like Dustin will take any opportunity for media attention as possible. And so I put an interview out on a blog for ATV Sport magazine that I was working for at the time, and I did the same thing with Caleb Moore. I did an article on building freestyle ramps, and they asked me to get some credibility to the story, see if I could get in touch with Caleb. And little did I know that years down the road I'd be hanging out at his house, and ultimately he'd take me to the hospital when I crashed and almost killed myself. But way back then, I know it's funny the places we never think we'll be, but way back then, I was like starstruck, and I called him and was like, oh my God, I'm talking to Caleb Moore. And he was happy to do the interview because he wanted exposure, and I picked his brain about building freestyle ramps, and he really gave me some good information, and it lended credibility to the story, whereas I wasn't just some random kid that was talking about freestyle ramps. I used Caleb's information to talk about building ramps, and Caleb's the best of the best, and so having that credibility improved my story. It helped me out because it built my credibility that as a journalist I was working with some of the top names, and it gave Caleb exposure and got his name out there in one other media. So I understand 100% where you're at with that gentleman that said no thanks and then came back, and it rubs people the wrong way. And unfortunately, word travels fast in this industry, so people learn very quickly who the great ones are to talk to. I'll give one other shout out real quick. A guy that is the textbook perfect example is a racer on the West Coast named Tim Shellman. He actually just retired from racing the pro class. He's 40 or 41 years old, racing kids half his age, and he is the face of I'd almost say the face of works racing. Now, he hasn't won a championship. I think he's made it on the pro podium once in the last 5 years, but the dude is friends with everyone at the track. He would part out his own bike to get you back in the race for if necessary. He's buddies with every media person. He jumps at the chance to be on the microphone and interview people and talk people up and encourage. Works does a program on Saturday nights called Works Kids, and they'll do writing clinics and things like that. Tim is always out there to teach the kids, school them up, that kind of thing. And so,
kind of a West Coast Johnny G.
Yes, exactly. And so, I mean, same deal. It's really, make friends. It's funny to me to open up ATV Insider magazine, and Harlan puts those funny pictures in there with funny comments and stuff. And I've seen pictures of Tim in there with a pink loofah around his neck, or the feather boas or whatever they are, and funky looking cowboy hat, and you make friends with the media, and most of those people walking around at the track with big cameras work for some sort of outlet. And most of the time, not always, most of the time, the pictures that they put online or in magazines are of people they know. So the more you can befriend, you run their sticker on your quad and promote them and share their content around, you might be surprised to open up a magazine and see a photo of you. And that's the way to build relationships with those people, to do that. And I mean, media outlets want exposure just like sponsors. Media outlets are fighting for advertising dollars, and so if you put a ATVriders.com sticker or an ATV.com sticker or ATV scene, those kinds of things, that's a way to get the attention. And back to Tim, he's been featured, I think, at least once a year for the last 3 years as the Wednesday wallpapers on ATVriders.com. That's pretty dang good exposure when you got the homepage of ATVriders.com and tons of people. And again, it's not because Tim is winning pro class at the works races. He's a pro class racer that does an incredible job of getting himself out in front of people, and it pays dividends in terms of the exposure.
Yep, and just to give you a mention of something, I had a couple of guys. You talked about running their stickers and things like that, and I'll give you a classic example of that. Pat McGuire and Gabe Phillips, two individuals that called me up. I mean, Chris Borch was running my stickers. I mean, there were a lot of guys running my stickers for me. I mean, I want to say thanks to everybody that ran stickers, ATV Motocross, GNCC. But one thing that was really cool and impressive to me that made me feel really good, and I like these guys anyway. So, it was kind of heartwarming in that respect on a personal level too. But those guys, Pat McGuire and Gabe Phillips, both called me up, or actually contacted me through Facebook and said, "Hey, can you send me a copy of the quadradio.com logo? I want to include it on my graphics, and I want to include it in my posters." And I was flabbergasted, man. I was floored. I mean, it really meant a lot to me to have those guys reach out to me to do that, and I just think that was awesome, and I do want to salute my hat to those guys. Gabe Phillips, both those guys were XC2 Pro-Am GNCC riders. Gabe was contending for the championship with Braden Henthorne and Pat McGuire. He ended up getting injured, and over, I think it was, what was that, Labor Day weekend, and his season ended, but it came down to Braden Henthorne. He ran my stickers on his quad, but Pat had his stickers actually embedded right into the graphics package and everything. And like I say, that was meaningful to me. So if that was meaningful to me, I know it's going to be meaningful to Harlan. It's going to be meaningful to, even old what's his face down there at ATVRE, David Screws, I mean, ATVRacingExtra.com, those guys, I mean, it means a lot. So, yeah, hey, even though we don't give you a lot, we try to give you a little plug and a little love every once in a while. I don't know if you appreciate that. Show it back, man. I mean, that's what we're all here for, to make this all a bigger and better thing. But anyway, to wrap this up and get into our emails real quick, a couple of things that we want to touch on again real quick, Seth, is, of course, do what you say you're going to do, and do consider your sponsorship and your courting of sponsorships, and basically everything that you do a relationship. Treat it as such, nurture it, baby it, buy it flowers, get it candy, things like that. Seriously.
Yeah, shoot. There's no way you can laugh about that. If you sent one of your sponsors a gift basket or a Christmas card or something like that, that's a surefire way to get their attention, and that says thanks. And honestly, being on the receiving end, so few people said thank you. You better believe that at Loretta's, the last round in 2011, I remember the people that came by and shook my hand and said, thanks for your support all this season. It meant a lot, and I remembered that the next time around when we were starting to do sponsorship stuff. Sometimes there's no leeway, and a lot of times I didn't have the authority or the ability to improve people's discounts. But when the time would come, or if I had the ability, and if sponsors have the ability, those are oftentimes the people that they get the most attention right off the bat, because showing your appreciation and your thanks, it seems like, is kind of a lost art these days. And going out of your way to just say thank you, and it helps people remember that it's a relationship, and so it's when done correctly, it's mutually beneficial. You as the athlete get discounted or free product to support your pursuit, and the company gets marketing by way of selling product because you're out there being a professional face for the company. So the more you can do to help sell product, to market them in a professional manner, and show your complete thanks, will definitely benefit you in the long run.
Mm-hmm. That is for sure. And, of course, with that kind of like balls it up. Well, I want to remind folks, you want to read the article, SethFarfghe.com, 25 Do's and Don'ts of Sponsorship. Check it out on there. It's really easy to find. Seth Farfghe is Fargher. That's Farfghe, and Seth is simply Seth. So anyway, and if you got any questions, you can email Seth at sethfarfghe.com, and he'll be able to answer any of those questions to you personally.
What was the phrase that I coined for her? I can't remember. Anyways, if you have relationships with top people, just because say you met Jeremiah Jones or John Natali at the track once, you don't put them as a reference, because you obviously in that situation wouldn't really have a relationship with them. But if you have a relationship with a well-known top professional rider, and you have their permission to use them as a reference, that's great, because when that sponsorship person is reviewing your resume, they may have a relationship with that pro. Like if, say, I was on the phone with John Natali working on his stuff, I say, hey, by the way, do you know Joe Schmo, they said that they know you, and he can say, oh, yeah, they're a great person. Those top pros I know go to bat for people, because at DWT I had John specifically, and other people say, hey, is there anything you can do for this guy? He's a great guy. They just need some help. And so if you have relationships like that, I encourage you to put on there. You can say references available by request, or you can just go ahead and put that name on there and say, hey, reference Mark Baldwin or Tim Farr or Jeremiah Jones, as long as they've given you permission. And then your name might come up in conversation with those other people, and that's a great opportunity for a person, a top professional or someone with influence or credibility in the sport, to give you a plug and say, yeah, they're a hardworking, worthwhile person that's going to go places. And that might change or influence the sponsor's level of support. And then also including links to social media and stuff. Obviously, if you send in a hard copy, the likelihood that they're going to look at the link, type it in their browser, and go visit your social media, your YouTube, your Facebook is more unlikely. Whereas if you send an electronic copy and there's a link that says, visit me on Facebook, check out all my videos on YouTube, that's a push of a button and bam, they're on your YouTube channel looking at videos of you ride and all that kind of stuff. So those are great things to do. Again, it kind of comes back to the format. If you send it in a hard copy, there's a less chance. You kind of cut your likelihood that they're going to actually visit those social medias because, and it sounds stupid, it sounds, well, why don't they just type it in the browser? It's not that big a deal. But when you're talking about hundreds of applicants and doing that for hundreds of applicants, it's a lot easier to push a button and take 30 or 45 seconds to watch a video of you riding than it is for them to type that in the browser for all 200, 300, 400 applicants. So,
okay, here's a question I think that is probably going to be posed by some people right now, because it's something that was the thing to do a few years ago. What about sending a hard copy of your promotional video on a DVD? Is that something that is probably not as maybe not as much of a thing that you want to focus on maybe as you would have maybe 5 or 6 years ago?
Yeah, it comes down to time. I would say, if you want to put together a 60-second or 2-minute long highlight reel and send them a link and put it on YouTube, that's favorable. That's a cool, creative way to do that. But sending in a DVD format portfolio, just because of the volume of resumes and work that I know I had and most people in that position do, that it's highly unlikely that they will ever take the time to put that in a DVD player and view it, because it just comes down to time, and it just takes a lot of time. So I'm a fan of video resumes, or that's a creative way to, if you can do a professional job of it and show your skills, it's a great way to do it. But putting a DVD together, it just comes down to the person that's reviewing it usually doesn't have time to put it in a DVD player, watch it, and then again, they have to go back, reply to an email, or search your document for your email address or whatever. Whereas if it's just an email with a link, bam, the click of a button, they can hit reply, they can watch a video, they can do all that simply. And I mean, we're talking about things that people may not think it's that difficult to go look for an email address or type it in their browser, but you want to make it as easy for that sponsor as possible. And if they can just hit reply on an email and they're back in touch with you, and I can reply to an email in 60 seconds, in 10 seconds, but to go scour a document, to watch a DVD, and then have to write down their contact information and then go type it in the browser just takes more time. So video stuff is great, but if you can upload it to YouTube, I would recommend doing that over sending in a DVD-type presentation.
For sure. A lot of exposure there on YouTube. If you don't have a YouTube channel, I suggest that you get one and start utilizing it. There's a lot of tools available on the internet for folks to use that are absolutely free. So take full advantage of it and do what you can to promote yourself as much as possible. And anything else that we need? Was there any other emails or anything?
No, that was basically it. The one gal had asked about letters of recommendation and that kind of thing. And what I told her was, if you send in a hard copy and you want to include a letter or two, and they're short and sweet and to the point, that's cool. If you're doing a an email or a resume or something like that, and you want to include them, the problem is it tends to get really long between your proposal, your resume, plus a couple letters of recommendation. All of a sudden, you've got a 3 or 4 page long document, and that person's probably not going to sit there and read it. So the letters of recommendation that came in hard copy form, I would scan real quick. And again, back to the credibility, if it was from somebody credible, like a professional writer or a well-known business owner, I'd probably take the time to read it. If it's from your mechanic that I don't know, or a PE teacher or something like that, I'm less likely to take the time to read it. So again, everything's kind of intertwined between credibility and that kind of stuff. So building credibility, I got to say, is one of the best things you can do by being friends with other big names, the media, that kind of thing.
Right. That's great. And, well, I guess that kind of brings us to an end here on the do's and don'ts of sponsorship, Seth. I do want to say thank you for taking the time to be with us the last 3 weeks. And, of course, we've got, it sounds like, more to talk about with the state of the industry and stuff. Again, that comes out tomorrow on atv.com, correct?
Yes, sir.
And do you know about what time that is expected out? Because I'm going to be waiting with bated breath to be able to just hit enter on atv.com.
I appreciate that. I don't know. Probably the morning sometime. I'll be checking and definitely make sure that I send it to you. Usually the editor will email me when it's posted live, so I'll scan the website and I'll send you a link and post it even to Quad Radio when it goes live.
Okay, we will do that. We will love to do that. And then, of course, we'll get in depth on it and talk a little more than what you were able to write about during all that, because I know there's probably a lot of good stuff left on the chopping block on the floor there, as a lot of good information and stuff. So we'll hopefully delve into that, and we'll get that started hopefully next week. And again, I just want to say thanks to you. I want to say thanks to our friends at Impact Solutions once again on the World Wide Web, Impact Solutions, ATV.com. Steve Walker over there, Jay and the guys taking care of you. Factory Authorized Service Center for Elka Suspension in the U.S. If you're getting warranty work done, whenever you send it in, that's where you're sending it to. They're located in Parkersburg, West Virginia. You can find them on Facebook as well at Impact Solutions. Real simple and easy to find. Great folks, great products, and don't forget Elka Suspension is also taking rider resumes right now. And a big thanks and salute once again to Ian Harris and the folks over at SSI Decals, as SSI, a huge supporter of the off-road and ATV motocross racing world through decals and banners and just helping vehicle wraps and things like that, just helping promote the riders, and they do it at great deals, specials, and opportunities for you. SSIDecals.com on the World Wide Web. For Seth Farfghe and the do's and don'ts of sponsorship, I'm Rodney Tomlin here on a Tuesday in early November 2012, or mid-November, I guess it would probably be more like, saying good day, everybody. God bless your heart and all your vital organs. I always love to say that and have never said that yet here on Quad Radio, but nonetheless, for Seth Farfghe, I'm Rodney Tomlin. This is Quad Radio.